Test, test, 1, 2, test, test, test.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Well, I drive the tech crew crazy doing it and forcing them to post it as soon as class is over so you guys can have it. But I don't want to do it if you're not going to use it. But since you're planning to, well, then that's good enough.
All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take about 30 minutes and get through this aspect of food and beverage, and then we will taste some wine, right? Okay, so that's our plan. Did I get back to you about the conference?
That was me.
It wasn't you. Who was it? It was you. Did I get back to you?
You emailed, you copied someone?
Yeah? And they were supposed to get with you about the specific class. It's on Tuesday, but they haven't done it yet? Okay, well, let's talk about that before you go so I can make sure that's done for you. All right. Now, you guys, I still haven't decided how we're going to handle the final exam in here. I know we talked about whether or not you're going to come to class and do it, or whether we're going to do it online. I still haven't made my mind up. I vacillate. Every now and then I'm convinced to do it online. Every now and then I'm convinced you need to come to the school to do it. But I'll make up my mind before next Wednesday when I distribute the exam questions. Okay? So remember, you're going to have the questions, no matter what I decide. You'll have 2 weeks to prepare them. And then, is it 2 weeks? 2 weeks to prepare them, and then we'll decide when we're going to do the exam, whether it's here or there, or at home. All right? Bear with me on that. Okay. Now, so next week, I don't have us, we're not meeting in the class. That's time set aside for you guys to work together to develop the answers to the questions. And I hope you take advantage of that. Everybody's going to have that time free. So partner up, meet as a group, and get your answers created. I mean, that's the whole idea why I give them to you up front, so that you work together to, and I really think the learning outcomes are huge when you do that, right? And remember, I'm going to give you 5, possibly 6 questions, and then you will have to answer one of them for your exam. Okay? 2-page limitation, and that's the end of it. You get to teach me everything you learned in 2 pages. So you got to be precise, cogent. Everybody? Ready for that? But you guys are doing great, because I thought your inspections and your summaries, all well written, very good pieces of work, good stuff. So you guys should do just fine. All right. So let's shift gears then, and let's talk about liability with regard to food and beverages. So we learned in chapter 10, strike that, 9, that we had a duty to serve food and beverages fit for consumption. Do you recall that? All right. Where does that duty come from? I mentioned this early on in one of the earlier chapters, this code called the Uniform Commercial Code. You guys remember that? Otherwise known as the UCC. We talked about it in a financing perspective when we talked about property. Everybody remember? Now, but the UCC is gargantuan law. And one of the other areas it covers, what did a parade just let out or something? Everybody can? But the UCC covers, it creates a warranty of merchantability for all vendors. Anybody that sells anything in the United States, you sell it with a express warranty of merchantability, unless they disclaim it, but that's what we term an exculpatory clause. Remember, we talked about that last time. So, how it applies to us is, when we serve food and beverages, we are serving them with a warranty of fitness for the use they're intended, right? So when we serve food in a restaurant or a hotel or drinks, should they be consumable? Should they be healthy? And should they not cause illness or a negative reaction in the person, right? Okay, and if they do, then we're typically responsible to the consumer. So remember, we talked last time about negligence, right? Duty, breach, causation, damages. Does that ring a bell? I'm so happy. Now, but under the Uniform Commercial Code, the duty is express. So you don't have to prove a duty. So if you get sick at a restaurant, you don't have to prove the duty. It's already statutorily there. And you don't have to prove breach. The way that law works is that if you ate there and you got sick, assuming it was within a particular incubation period, usually 4 hours, then it is presumed under the law that they got you sick. So the only thing you have to prove are damages. Right? And so that law is a little bit kind of like we call strict liability. Not quite, but a little bit. We served it, we're responsible for it. Yeah? So this is crucial then that you have your people certified in food safety sanitation. Most local communities require you to have at least one person certified in food safety sanitation.
The law actually changed recently.
I did? What did it say?
Recently it was, you just have to have the manager on site to be certified.
Okay.
In September it changed to every food
Handler has to be there. Yeah. So there you go. So thank you. So you have to stay up with that. And look, here's the thing. Let's say that Laura goes and gets certified and she's the only food handler on the premises, but then her certification, somebody gets sick and we found out that her certification expired 2 days before the person got sick. Do we have a problem? Yeah, the certification has to be enforced. And whose responsibility is it to track those and make sure they stay in force? Is it the employees? It's the employers. You've got to track that, just like your responsible service of alcohol certification, right? We have that responsibility. Aramark got hit with a $120 million verdict on a case out of New Jersey at a stadium because one of their server, the person that actually served the alcohol, their certification had expired, which totally precluded them from asserting the protection under the law that if all of your people are certified, you can't get sued. Well, this one person, their certification had lapsed. They let them continue to work just for a couple of days. Person got drunk, went down a freeway, and killed the family, and so they got hit with $121 million verdict. So when I tell you this stuff's important, it's like that one comma we talked about. It's like the date. It all matters. Okay? All right. So this food safety thing is paramount, especially today, because of all the contagious diseases. We've got Legionella. We've got we've got E. coli. We've got a lot of things that are creating some real challenges for us in the industry. And look, make no mistake, an E. coli outbreak at a restaurant can ruin an entire chain quickly. Yeah? Just one bad act oftentimes can ruin an entire chain. Just ask United Airlines. Right? Okay, so we got to be careful. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means we get everybody certified, right? So the education is ongoing. It means we're concerned about cross-contamination. Very practically speaking, in your kitchens, colored chopping blocks, chopping boards, cutting boards, right? So that we're not cross-contaminating. Red is for chicken, blue is for beef, everything else is for vegetables, right? Whatever it is, but everything has a color. One place where I find most food service establishments fall down on and where they get themselves in big trouble is their mops. They'll typically use one mop for their kitchen, the lobby, and the bathroom. Am I right?
Yes.
I should have you teach this part of this. So you need color-coded mops. And you never you don't want to take the bathroom out of the kitchen anyway. Why not? Into the lobby area, why not? What are you dragging into the lobby? Grease. Not to mention germs, but grease. And so now all of a sudden, people wonder why we have so many slips and falls in the restaurant business. Right? That's the second thing. And then the restroom is just, that should be a no-brainer, but it only took us, 100 years to figure that out. I bet you see a lot of people that still do that, huh?
Along with the mop situation, so you're using the same mop for every room inside of your facility.
Yeah,
And some people aren't educated or trained.
yeah.
And they will wash their equipment and do mop sinks. So you can just imagine.
Oh, I wish you hadn't told me that.
I have seen
Oof. In other words, the mop sink is where they rinse the mop and clean the mop that's been in the bathroom cleaning up. They'll wash their slicer or the utensil in that same sink. I didn't make it up. I'm saying I got validation right here that this is Miss Sanitation right here. She works for the health department in the city. It is disgusting. It's bad. And look, hotels need to be cautious too in hotel rooms, right? Where do the germs arise you don't inspect hotels, do you? Oh, the food service, but not the rooms.
some food services are.
Yeah, but not the room though.
No, not
Yeah, but look, bless you, the telephone, a lot of germs there. The remote control on the TV is the worst. But all the bathroom countertop is horrible. Why? When you go in and you do tests, why is the bathroom countertop the worst? What is it next to? Toilet. And people flush the toilet and we think it just goes down, but that stuff goes it's like a volcano. Because Jay Neal, you guys remember Jay? He's a professor here in sanitation. He did all these studies. And so I brought him out to the Hospitality Law Conference one year to do this results of his study, and I put him at lunch. So that was not a good idea. But anyway, so you got to be careful about that, right? And then the last piece on the food side, where we really get ourselves in trouble, is allergies. And you've got to realize that allergies are very, very serious. They can kill people. As a matter of fact, I was involved in a case 15 years ago now in Antigua. It was a U.S.-based case because it was a U.S.-based hotel. But a father and his daughter, and he was a physician, so they understood what was going on. But she had a severe allergy to peanuts. So they went to a restaurant at the hotel and they ordered a dish, and it was a chicken dish and it had a sauce. And the doctor said to the server, hey, I need to be sure this doesn't have anything, peanuts, no cross-contamination. And the server did exactly what he was supposed to do. He said, I don't know. And that's how you want to answer, and that's how you want your employees to answer. You never want them to guess when it comes to this stuff, right? Okay, so, I don't know. I'm going to go check with the kitchen. Well, the executive chef was not on duty. The sous chef was. So he goes to the sous chef. He tells him the situation. Sous chef, no peanuts. So he comes back out, reassures the family, nope, no peanuts. The girl ate the dish, went into prophylactic shock, life flight her to Miami, died 2 days later. No. Yeah. I tell you guys, this is serious. And turns out, when they did the investigation, that the chicken, the marinade for the chicken had peanut oil in it. So you have to look deep. Now, is our duty to know every allergy that our guests have? No, that would be an overwhelming, impossible duty. But is our duty to know every ingredient that we are producing and putting into our food items? And don't forget drinks today. You guys are making some crazy drinks. You're stuffing olives with all kinds of crazy stuff. You're mixing this, and all these craft cocktails are coming back with pomegranate and this and that, and people, and lots of nuts. Or creme de noix is extracted from almonds, and people don't know this stuff, and they go out and order, and they're depending upon you to tell them what's in it, and you got to warn them, right? So you'll go into places, bakeries especially. They typically should have a sign that says, "Hey, we cannot avoid cross-contamination in here," right? We use gluten, we use nuts, and we, as try as we might, we can't avoid cross-contamination. So please do not come in if you have significant allergies to these items. That's what you have to do, unless you can make it totally secure, which it's nearly impossible to do with powder, with everything going around. So you've got to be cognizant of that, warn people about allergies, and make sure that your staff is very well trained in terms of the ingredients and how to respond to somebody when they're asked a question. All right? Questions about food? Yes, sir?
About beverages specifically. With beer, some restaurants will have many different taps.
Sure.
And the burden to clean those lines is on the distributor. So if lines don't get cleaned for a certain amount of time, you can have bacterial infections.
Grow in the line.
Exactly. So would the burden be on the distributor, or because part of their contract is to clean those lines whenever they change out the kegs, or would the burden be on the establishment?
Well, let's ask the jury. So you guys just heard the situation. If you got sick from drinking beer someplace, and probably people do and they don't realize it,
Right. Yeah.
who would you sue? Hey, sue them both. Way to go, Leah. Leah gets a gold star. Leah should be a lawyer. Sue them both. And then you guys would fight it out. Because what would happen is Leah would sue you. You turn around and sue the distributor. Leah doesn't care who pays, as long as somebody pays. And you would turn around and sue the distributor turn around and sue you. That's the way that would work. It's called cross claims between the defendants. Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So this stuff it's serious, and you need to know about it. Now let's shift gears, and let's talk about an even more serious topic that does kill a whole lot of people, and that's alcohol. Do we have a duty to serve alcohol responsibly? Yes. All right. Now, each state has a dram shop law or a dram shop act. What's a dram? Say it. You're thinking about it. Bless you, bless you. A dram is a very small amount of liquor, little less than an ounce. Yeah? And it's over in the United Kingdom, which is where a lot of our law came from. Yeah? They used to have dram shops that then turned into pubs. Right? So we call them dram shop laws. So for the longest time, you guys do this on your notes. I want you to draw a triangle. All right? Any triangle you want. Equilateral would be helpful. If you skip 5th grade geometry, you don't know what that is, 3 equal sides. Right? All right. So, at the very top of your triangle, put A. Bottom right, put B. Bottom left, put C. Okay? Now, draw an arrow. Make the line that runs from A to B. The segment there, draw an arrow between A to B. And so A, label A as the bar or the provider of alcohol, right? B is the drinker. C is the innocent party that gets injured by B. Okay? You got the parties? Now, for the longest time, so what happened there was you had a relationship between A and B, right? A business relationship. B would go in and drink. A would charge B money. They had a business relationship. B and C had a relationship. It wasn't a good one. But they were connected because B injured C. Right? Do C and A have a relationship? A direct relationship? They have indirect, but not direct. And that's important under the law for the first 150 years. It's called privity. P-R-I-V-I-T-Y. Privity. And all it means is a relationship. Direct relationship. Right? But since there was no privity between C and A, C could not recover from A. C could only recover from B for injuries. Well, did B have any money? Because back in the day, you didn't even have to have insurance. My brother and I are the only two in the room that remember those days. And today, you can get by with a minimum of $20,000 worth of insurance. Well, if you get run over by a drunk and you go to the hospital for a week, you're going to have $500,000 in medical bills. You can't work for 6 months. And if you lose a limb, you're out several $1 million. Well, $20,000 isn't going to go very far. So if the 20 grand doesn't pay for the medical bills and they can't recover from the bar, who has to pay for the injuries to C? Well, C doesn't, yeah. Oftentimes they don't have any money. Look in the mirror. The public has to pay for it. Yeah, because they're going to go to a county hospital. That's where they're going to get their medical treatment, and they're probably going to go on disability, right? And we're going to support them. All because A overserved B. Now B can sue A. If B sustained injuries, B can sue A. But oftentimes B, the drinker, doesn't recover from A. Why not? What do juries find B? Contributory negligence. Man, Leah, you're like hit the lotto tonight. That's good. They find B contributory negligence. How many of you think in that equation, when somebody gets too drunk to drive, that B has more responsibility than A? And it's okay if you do. Who thinks that? Yeah? Lots of people think that. I think just the opposite. I think A should bear the brunt of the responsibility, and I'm a big believer in self-responsibility. But there's a reason we don't let people drive drunk. There's a reason we don't let people get married when they're drunk. There's a reason we don't let people enter into a contract when they're drunk. You guys remember that? All right, and it's because when you consume alcohol, you don't think clearly. So to put the responsibility on the person that's drinking, in my opinion, it's just not being fair to the person that's drinking. And plus, who's the only person in the equation, A or B, that's not supposed to be drinking? A. They're supposed to be the sober, rational one. So wouldn't they be the one to know? That's my perspective. Juries don't always follow my lead. Clearly, you guys don't always follow my lead, which is just fine. I'm just sharing with you my perspective, and I want you to think about it because I don't want you to walk out of here thinking that B could never recover against A, because some juries see it differently, right? I was involved in a case, I think I may have told you about it, in Arizona 3 years ago now, where the bar served a guy 19 drinks in 87 minutes. 19 drinks in 87 minutes. But 5 of the drinks included Red Bull. All right, well, rule number 1 is you never mix an energy drink with alcohol. You guys are over there smiling like, yeah, I did it last night. Don't do that. That's not good. It's not healthy. And why not? Energy drinks, they're an accelerant. Alcohol's a depressant. Well, we train every server to look for what? Physical manifestations of intoxication. Well, if you're drinking Red Bull or Rockstar, that's going to mask those physical manifestations. Well, they kept testifying that this guy didn't look drunk, and they said he's big. He was 6'8" and weighed 250, maybe 280, I can't remember. But they said he's big, and he didn't look drunk. Of course he didn't look drunk. You filled him up with gasoline, right? And then here's the other thing they argued. They said, well, we had 5 outlets at the bar, and we were packed that night, so that it was impossible for us to track him. Let me give you guys a thought. Don't ever say your obligation to keep people safe is impossible, because if it's impossible, then what? You shouldn't be doing it. Exactly. Right? So don't ever say that. But they kept saying that. Said, well, we couldn't track because there's 5 places and the bar was 5 people deep. There's no way. And I said to the assistant manager, I said, wait. Just so that I'm clear. The bar was jammed. She goes, oh, you couldn't move. I said, really? And you're saying you couldn't track this guy? That's correct. And he was like 6'8", 280. She goes, right. And I said, but in 87 minutes, he made it around to all 5 bars in this overcrowded bar? She went, uh-huh. And I said, yeah. I said, oh, yeah, I don't think so. But here's the moral of this story. The jury put 80% of the fault on the drinker. So the innocent graduate student that he ran over, because when he left the bar, he ultimately passed out. That's what happens when all the energy drink gets out of your liver and all you have is all that alcohol left. The alcohol takes over and your liver goes, uh-oh. And you're like, and he just passed smooth out on the freeway, ran off the road, and they were collided on an entrance ramp. And it was a graduate student. She'll never be the same. But she didn't. She got very little money and absolutely no fault of hers. All because the jury put it on the drinker, who had zero money. And of course, he walked away what? Scot-free, totally healthy, no problem at all. And that's almost always what happens. All right? So, you guys have to think about the allocation of responsibility when it comes to alcohol. And here's why. What happened was, in the early 70s and late 60s, is the government got tired of picking up the tab for this person in C, the C position, because they couldn't recover from A. So judges started finding A liable to C. And then the restaurant and bar industry went, ooh, we don't like this. So they went to their legislatures and they said, you need to pass a law that gives us some protection. And that's what every single state passed. They passed a Dram Shop Act that gives bars and anybody that serves alcohol retail-wise, on-premise consumption, gives them protection from liability. First of all, they typically make it the exclusive remedy in the law to recover damages, so you can't sue for negligence. You can't sue for negligent hiring. You can't sue for negligent training. You can only recover for violation of the Dram Shop Act. Plus, they say, let's just take Texas as an example, the law says, if all of your employees are certified in the responsible service of alcohol in an authenticated or validated course, right, by the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, then you will not be liable unless you directly or indirectly encourage the overconsumption of alcohol. So that's why this whole cottage industry of training people in the responsible service of alcohol popped up, right? But how would you screw that up? By directly or indirectly encouraging the overconsumption of alcohol. Right? So you've got protection, a liability shield, if everybody's trained and certified. The only way you can screw that up, typically, there are a few other ways, but typically we screw it up by directly or indirectly encouraging the overconsumption of alcohol. How do we do that?
Don't cut someone off when they should be.
Well, all right, we keep serving somebody when they're intoxicated. That's one way. What are other ways? Promotions, when we steeply discount drinks. So if you're going to have a happy hour, my fine feathered alcohol man, discount your food, not your alcohol. I still go into, that's not true. I still hear about places that sell beer for $1 or wine, and they do it late at night. They'll do a reverse happy hour. And I'm like, what? And people wonder why I go to bed at 10:30. I don't want to be on the road. You had a question? Yes, ma'am?
How can it be legal then to have like bottomless mimosas?
Yeah, it's legal. They don't preclude it, but they're playing with fire. And speaking of fire and alcohol. Do you ever put those two things together?
No.
Never. And yet you'll see people doing flaming drinks all day long. That's crazy. Do me a favor. If you ever see that happening, get some of my law cards and put them down on for coasters. All right. I want to talk to you about one other thing. And that is, I'm going to show you how this happens. Martinis. Didn't we talk about this? We did, so we don't have to talk about it again. You remember? Look, those glasses, they started out 2.5-ounce glasses. That's when martinis were invented, 2.5-ounce glasses. That's why, and to this day, you go behind the bar, you get their recipe book. I will wager that their recipe calls no more than 3 ounces, 2 or 2.5 ounces of gin or vodka. That's the only thing that goes into a martini. Some groceries, a couple of olives or a nasty onion. Right? And so when you put 2 ounces of gin or vodka and you shook it, you got maybe a 1/4 ounce of water dilution, yeah, and then you put an olive or 2 in it, it would fill it up to the brim of a 2.5 ounce glass. Not because the glass is like that. Today, they're serving martinis in these jumbo shrimp cocktail glasses. Well, these are 8 and 9 ounce glasses, right? So you have to realize there's not a bartender working for tips out there in the world that's only going to put 2 ounces of gin or vodka in an 8 or 9 ounce glass. And so they're putting 4, 5, 6 ounces of alcohol in these martinis. And if you drink one, I'll promise you, you're going to blow well in excess of 0.08. You're probably going to blow twice that after one. 2, you're going to be 3 times the legal threshold. Easily. I don't care how big you are. I don't care if you're a man or a woman. If you do 2 of those within 2 hours, you're a goner. And you have to realize that. And look, does the consumer know that? They don't know it. Who knows that? The server, the premise, the place, the business. And that's why I feel more like the server, the dispenser, should be more responsible. So it's a challenge. But you guys need to be aware that this dram shop, I probably get a call every other week about a dram shop case somewhere in the country where somebody has died. It's horrible. And it's not enough just to train your people. You've got to create a culture of responsibility. I don't want you to walk out here without understanding this. Just because your people are certified, that's the bare minimum you can do. The bare minimum. Every single day you do lineups with your people, right, about the menu. You need to do lineups about serving alcohol responsibly. It needs to blast across the POS system. Every time somebody rings in alcohol, serve responsibly. Make sure you call ID anybody that looks under 40 years of age, right? Those constant reminders. A nice system is green, yellow, red. They walk in. Today you've got to be extra careful because people are drinking it up before they come in. Yeah, or they got one of those little mule pads. What do they call those things? Camel bags. And they got a little straw and they suck it down. How do you know about that? Oh, yeah. Oh, the Boy Scouts will put alcohol in there? No. Water. So, but you got to be careful. People go to, and today, going from bar to bar is a big deal. And so somebody could come in already intoxicated. And if we're not sizing them up when they come in and sit down, we've got real problems. So you've got to really take this to heart today and recognize that this is a real key challenge for us. And it's going to keep getting worse and worse until we wrap our arms around it. But people get severely injured over this. Every case I get called in on is a quadriplegic, it's a death case. It's just horrible. I just got called a case here in Houston. This happened 2015, but it's just now getting into the litigation stage. 4 high school teenagers went into a club in Midtown. The driver and her best girlfriend were drinking. Now they were underage. And so what these clubs will do is ban the people that can drink, right? Not ban. But what they weren't doing out on the floor is they weren't holding people accountable that didn't have a band, so people were handing them drinks to drink. And it was just free flowing. And they got drunk. And they were 18 and 19. And they had a 1-car accident and killed one. And the 2 in the back seat were just fine, but the other one in the passenger side died as well. And so the family of the girl in the passenger seat is suing the family of the driver, right? These used to be best friends. That's what happens. So the estates get done. So don't let that happen in one of your places. Be cognizant and mindful of serving alcohol responsibly. And Chris is going to talk a little bit about that here in a minute. Or you can do it now. Yeah, now's a good time to add, if you don't mind. Yeah, now's a good time. Does everybody here know Dr. Taylor? Yeah. Chris is our resident wine guru, and he's going to be talking to us about the tasting this evening. He's very kind and generous with his time. He typically does this for us, so we're happy to have him here. But he was mentioning something to me earlier that I want him to share with you.
And I ask that you keep this room.
Oh, well, let me turn the microphone off then.
Thank you. There's cocktail.
So now we're going into the wine tasting, so that'll be all for this
We
evening.
take on student volunteers.